Well, good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. Welcome to the second in our Guru series, Predicting Real Estate Purchase Behavior Among the Global Elite. And before we continue into the program and introduce our host, a couple of things, if we may, just some housekeeping items. We've muted all sound and video except for just myself and our presenter, Julie Faupel, this morning. If you find yourself on the screen, please mute yourself if you could. Sometimes people manage to squeeze through on Zoom. If you don't, like Luca Brazzi, you may be swimming with the fishes. So try to unhook if you see yourself on screen. There is a chat button down the bottom. If you have a question that you want to pose during the conversation today, please feel free to load into the chat button or just provide a comment. We'll be happy to receive them. And if I'll try to keep an eye on them. And if I see something relevant, I'll pose that question to Julie as we're progressing. And again, the inevitable question, we have so many realtors on the call today. We know you get pulled away from time to time with phone calls and emails, whatever. We are recording as we do. We record all of our Zoom programs. We will send you out a link late this afternoon to the YouTube channel where we upload all of our Zoom recordings. So don't be concerned if you lose part of the program today. So we're going to converse with Julie Faupel, founder of Realm, a globally collaborative real estate platform that combines real-time data with human experience and networking. And Realm, which is targeted toward the luxury space, employs patented technology that combines data from multiple sources, including a partnership with WealthX, which incidentally was co-founded by David Friedman, who we had on last week, the week before, to predict purchasing behavior and match properties with potential clients, which is where we're really headed today. In addition, a little bit about Julie, and I'll be very brief here. In addition to being a top producing real estate professional at Compass, she is the founder and CEO of Realm. Her career path prior to real estate includes 12 years of management and consulting experience with luxury hotels and small businesses. She's in Jackson Hole, where she has served on the Jackson Hole Community Foundation Board as a former Jackson Hole Chamber of Commerce board chair, and has served on the Christie's International Real Estate Global Advisory Board and as a member of YPO, the Young Presidents Organization. And briefly, a little bit about Realm, just to set this up. After officially launching in 2020, so this is a new organization, the Realm platform has grown quickly, with a membership comprised of 575 agents in 39 states and 16 countries, representing 145 brokerages, with $9 billion in listings. The more than 300,000 clients represented by the Realm network include high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals, investors, and celebrities. And this is both on the buyer and the seller side, because these are people interested in luxury properties for their personal use, as well as their investment portfolios. Julie, welcome to the program.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me today.
It's our delight to have you, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation. Let me just set this up. We really conduct, for those of you who've been with us for LuxeSF for the 19 years we've been in operation, we really feature one brand by itself. We'll have multiple brands on panels, but we really have been intrigued by Realm for a couple of reasons. A, because of its remarkable growth since 2020, which is just around the corner. The fact that a number of the top producing agents in the Bay Area who are members of LuxeSF, because it's an agnostic organization in that sense, are members of Realm. So we've been intrigued by the fact that top producers have joined the organization. But more importantly, if you're dealing with a high-end property, let's just pick a number, 10 million plus. If you're marketing a high-end property, how in heck do you get that out to the right buyers and the right sellers, and certainly the right buyers, both nationally and globally? How do you tap into that? Because it's a limited network of potential buyers who can afford to buy at that level. So that's why we invited Julie to join us today. Julie, I want to get into Realm if I can. Just a brief overview, because then we want to get into some marketing info, but mission, vision, membership profile, operations. Can you give us the headlines?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, Alf, founded in or it launched in March of 2020. So during COVID, about 2 weeks prior to quarantine, the hypothesis was that we could use technology to inform and enhance relationships between top producing brokers, as well as between those brokers and their clients. And so, as my biography mentioned, I started my career in hospitality. And one of the things that, as I was kind of progressing, one of the things that would make me crazy was the fact that you could go to a Ritz-Carlton in Paris or a Ritz-Carlton in London or a Ritz-Carlton in, Abu Dhabi, and you could replicate the stay because you had guest recognition software and technology. And then in real estate, you amplify that spend by, thousands and thousands of times, and yet we're still forcing the consumer to re-educate us. And there's got to be a better way. I mean, especially now with big data and so much information out there. And of course, we've followed David Friedman for a long time and watched his star rise. And so when we talked about kind of integrating, some of the now at this point, it's 5 million profiles of the wealthiest people in the world, you start to get a really robust data set that helps to then inform how you're marketing and how you're reaching out to those targeted customers. And so what we found is that the reception has been remarkable. And as you said, Alf, we've grown, it's a by invitation only organization. And so it is, we vet every single member that comes into Realm to make sure that it is a community of kind of peers and truly the best in the industry. And then we, I think we connect everybody over calls and using the technology, but it really is, the technology is the backbone, but it's used to enable the relationships, certainly never replace.
Julia, were those numbers correct? I mean, I had 575 agents, et cetera. Is that a correct number?
It's a little more now, but it's close. Yeah. So I think we're just breaching 600 now, and I think we've got 18 billion in inventory. That is, I think spring listing season kind of happens, and so a lot of the inventory is getting loaded into Realm. But all of that comes in via API. So we've got feeds from not just data sources like WealthX or Audience Acuity or iBehaviors or Identified, but then also through ListHub and through some other data partners that are helping us get the information in from local MLSs.
Give me a profile, if you will, of sort of the average Realm member. What do they look like?
So they are all top 10% in their markets in terms of average sale price and total dollar volume. And then we limit a market at 1% of the total agent population. So we're really, for us, we look at, it's the top 0.5% of the agents globally is kind of where Realm will live and operate. And I mean, as far as a profile is concerned, we have most of the record holders in their markets. So whether it's the largest ranch transaction that's ever sold, whether it's the largest, the first to broach $100 million in the state of California, it's largely the people that are really out there pushing the boundaries and defining the future of the industry. But in a historically very, very competitive and not collaborative marketplace, what we've seen is Realm as a community is incredibly collaborative, and more than anything, it is a group of people that really want to take the barriers to communication down and work together to the benefit of their clients. So it's more of an ethos than anything else.
How many members in the Bay Area, including Tahoe?
Oh gosh, off the top of my head, I don't know the number, but it's, I would say probably a dozen.
Okay, that gives me some scope. In the period in this 3 years that you've been building the organization, what has been the biggest surprise and what has been the biggest challenge or difficulty?
I think one of the things that was amazing was, as I mentioned, we launched March of 2020 and then headed into quarantine. And I told my husband, I said, we probably need to sell everything because this is going to get really bumpy. Who's going to be buying real estate in a time like this? And what happened was it forced a pivot in the business where we went virtual with our meetings. We went virtual with how we were demonstrating the software and the technology. And what happened was we discovered that this idea of convening communities virtually was not only possible, but created an opportunity for us to really thrive and to connect and idea share all together. You know, and I don't think that would have happened otherwise. So I think it was a surprise. I think that it was, you know, what started out as a really, really scary moment was something that ended up being probably one of the best things that could have happened to the business, because by pivoting, we were able to scale that much more quickly. And when you look at the fact that, you know, people weren't able to leave their home markets, but they wanted to serve their clients and customers as best as they could, or we had developers that were debuting, you know, properties where, you know, they're international and they can't, people physically couldn't get to them. So we had to think about the business differently. And, you know, that brought more barriers to communication down, and it really enabled a lot of learnings. And, you know, I mean, I think people really started to look at how they were doing business in a very different manner.
I mean, you were the right thing at the right time.
Totally. I have people that ask sometimes, Alf, if I invented Realm because of COVID, and you know, Realm was being built for probably a solid 18 months before the pandemic ever happened. And it's, you know, but it was highly relevant. And I think that was the other piece of it is, you know, being a real estate professional myself and sitting in people's living rooms and pitching this idea and this product, you know, that also helped to really inform kind of what took shape. I think a lot of times, you know, especially in the real estate industry, you know, you have innovators that come in and they are, you know, working with big data or, you know, big tech, and they are kind of designing something that works for them, but it doesn't necessarily work for the industry. And what we wanted to do was make something very easy to use that was a differentiator for ourselves and for our peers. And we had the good fortune of being able to kind of test it and test the hypothesis along the way, and you know, make something that really resonated with our clients.
To the extent that we define competition, I'm seeing your competition as say the Sotheby's Global Network, which I admire very, very greatly, highly established. Certainly, I guess Christie's to a certain extent, luxury portfolio, leading RE properties. That's the set, yes?
Actually, no, it's not, because what we did was we said we don't want to compete on that kind of a global level on that stage. Realm is intended to be an ingredient brand. It is intended to make somebody that is a great broker that has excellence as a lifestyle even better. It's kind of the secret ingredient. And so that's what's so amazing about kind of as we look at the ecosystem of Realm and 150 different brokerages, 150 different brands in the real estate industry live within Realm. So we have everything from, you know, top producing brokers from Sotheby's and Compass and Christie's, and you know, they're affiliated with leading real estate companies of the world, or who's who in luxury real estate. It really it runs the gamut. And because I think at the end of the day, and again, putting my realtor hat back on, we can't as an industry profess to know what works for any individual top producer. You know, everybody has their own specific formula of the marketing and the services and the support that they're receiving from those wonderful brokerages. What we want to do is we want to really enhance their ability to provide that service and enhance their already successful business model. And so we're you know, we are brand agnostic, and we actually work in partnership with all of those brands.
So here's my question. You were already a successful Compass agent in Jackson Hole. What has Realm built for you? What have been the surrounding layers then that have helped you, and how?
Yeah, so it's, I mean, there's so much there. And I think it's kind of the value proposition for any, I mean, I see some of my Realm colleagues on this call, you know, one of the things that as you look at the real estate business, it has become, as the brands and as the entities have competed with each other, there are a lot of things that have become, you know, pretty standardized in terms of, okay, I've got to make sure I advertise in my local newspaper. I've got to make sure that I create a website for each of these properties. I've got to make sure we go in the Robb Report or the Wall Street Journal. But then, you know, how you go in and differentiate yourself and how you explain to your clients what makes a difference between working with me or working with one of my competitors, you know, that's the thing that has really been the most remarkable in terms of being able to garner market share and help people understand what it means when, you know, I've got a sphere of influence that includes 600 of the top producers globally, and I can activate their database and not to find out what their clients' names are or to cold call them, but rather to reach out to their trusted advisor and to be able to connect with them directly and introduce these incredible properties directly through a channel that we know will get to that high net worth or that.
It's a trusted network.
Exactly.
A trusted network. All right. Let's take the realm hat off now, and let's get into a lot of the meat here. How would you profile today that high net worth and the ultra high net worth transactor, either buyer or seller? What sort of give me a demographic, psychographic profile of what they look like? I understand there's a lot of variation, but can you get to a center cut?
Yes, it's a very interesting time because I think all of this, the psychographics and this movement of wealth that is happening is the thing that is absolutely influencing whether it is a baby boomer that's looking to kind of invest in a generational home or a legacy property, the boomers and the silent generation, they control about $85 trillion worth of wealth that is transitioning until
US or globally?
That's globally. And
right.
So that's it's a massive number, but and so you look at that and you say, okay, so let's just consider for a moment the value set of the boomers or the Xers, the silent generation. They're very, very different. Still largely, it's the experience economy. They're still largely brand driven. Technology is a wonderful attribute, but it's not something they haven't grown up with it as part of their lives. So then you look at where that money is being transitioned to the millennials or the Gen Zs. These are kids that have never, they don't know what it's like to not have a computer. They don't know what it's like to not have the ease of technology. And so you've got these disparate kind of generations, and they're all trying to work together to build the family's wealth or to invest in a property that is either going to be a legacy or nexus for a family. And so it's a very interesting time to kind of be the translator between all of those generations and where they're headed, because what's happening is you've got still largely the wealth is being controlled by the senior generation, but it's the purchases are being informed by people that have an incredible social responsibility and social conscience. They aren't necessarily as into the cachet and of the brand or of the badge. They, prior to COVID, they really wanted to be closer to town and not have to drive, and that has gone 180 degrees the other direction, where now people are looking more at living off the grid and really wanting to be self-sustainable. So it's a very interesting time. They've figured out that they don't have to necessarily live in an urban environment to work, and so they're spending more time kind of in some of these destinations and driving demand that way outside of the cities. And so I think it's more than anything, when I look at the demographics, it's far more kind of this generational shift that we have to accommodate and also, really kind of bridge.
Let me drill down into the specifics. Let's pick a number. So you've got 600 members nationally in the US. Looking at their customer base, profiling their customer base. Are they boomers? Are they millennials? Are they is it primarily male, female? What price point are they spending at? I want to try to understand who this high net worth and ultra high net worth transactor
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah, so it's, it is, and I know this will drive you crazy, Alf, but it's kind of all of the above, because it's a shared decision. It's not something that is being made by kind of the typical would be, in an urban environment, the wife is making the buying decision because, the husband says, this is what you're going to do. And I want you to have a kitchen that you love. And I want you to get the decorator that you love. And now it's, it's far more participatory because it is something where people are living in their homes differently. And so they're looking at it and saying, okay, through COVID, we called it the luxury of peace of mind, because the patriarch and the matriarch of the family said, I never want to be without my children again. I never want to be separated. I don't want to have anyone control me other than, kind of I'm controlling myself. And my wealth and my status has gotten me to that place where I can do that. I think more than anything, they're owning more properties, where we haven't seen, which is, of course, contributing to the limited inventory and kind of the lack of real estate on the market, because they're not necessarily deciding that they're going to sell their place in the Hamptons to buy a place in the mountains. They're owning more of it, and then going between that, and the families are all kind of working together in kind of this ecosystem and using the real estate very, very differently. But I think, you know, in terms of the price points, I think we're seeing things at higher price points trade because they're not as
how high?
I mean, you know, we've had record sales in their respective markets. I mean, we set a record 2 years in a row, you know, in kind of the $60 to $70 million range.
But that's the outlier. What is the more common high end?
So I think, you know, anytime you get over $10 million, that's in any market. I think that is high end. Although, you know, I mean, there are markets where it's like, you know, the Midwest is still very conservative and you're looking at probably 5 million there, but you've still got incredible iconic properties, you know, in the Bay Area. And I know we've got a lot of those brokers on this call that, you know, they have historical provenance, they have, you know, that kind of cachet, and those will always drive demand. And so I think what you're seeing with that is, you know, the real estate collectors are still very, very active. You know, they're looking for properties that are incredible and that have that kind of story to tell.
Let's pick a number, and I had the same number in mind. 10. I mean, I find it strange I'm saying. I remember the early days when 10 million was like a billion. But let's take 10 million as a starting point, which for the Bay Area is manageable. Is that buyer coming from domestic US? Is it coming from, let's assume it's a $10 million property in the Bay Area itself. Is that buyer going to come from the US somewhere, from East Coast, from somewhere US, or is it going to come from overseas?
Oh, I think, you know, overall, the overseas buyers right now, I mean, in 2022, it was less than 5% of all of the transactions in the US. And so you're still talking about a small fraction of international buyers. Now, I think, you know, when you look at technology and the Bay Area really being a hub of innovation, I think you'll always kind of drive demand from China, India, and, you know, kind of some of the nations that right now are showing the greatest promise and the greatest growth. But I think largely it's people coming from other markets. You know, and we've seen this incredible flight from the East Coast west, you know, and people seeking greater lifestyle and you know, kind of wanting to be in Silicon Valley.
That's definite. That's a definite trend.
Absolutely, yes. You know,
because we keep hearing about West Coast going east.
Well, and they're going to Florida. Yeah, I mean, and there's some of that too. So but you do have kind of this movement away from, you know, I think it's, I mean, largely the movement away out of New York to a large degree, and just some of the, you know, the busier hubs, you know, the busier city hubs, Boston the same, Chicago some, you know, things that are other, you know, other factors are affecting that, political unrest, you know, crime, that kind of thing, taxes. And so there's just a lot that is driving kind of people to this great lifestyle migration.
I want to come back to international, but just a quick digression. San Francisco and the Bay Area, how much are we hurting perceptually to East Coast buyers or to other national buyers?
How much are you hurting?
Hurting because of the press and the crime and the this and the that.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, I think that it's interesting because I think the sentiment is that everybody is kind of rooting for San Francisco to a large degree because it's been such a beloved city for so long. And I think now, you know, what I'm hearing more and more is that things are coming back, that it's not, you know, that the homelessness and some of the things that some of the issues that were being faced have been addressed, or they're getting better. And you know, I mean, the media doesn't help any of that, but I also know you've got, again, you have incredible brokers on this call. And, you know, one of the things that I think is the most incredible thing about being a real estate professional is that we are community builders. And so being an ambassador for your community and really kind of helping people to understand that, you know, the schools in San Francisco and the Bay Area in general are remarkable. And you have this incredible brain trust of innovation and technology, and those things are still intact. And so I think, you know, people that were scared away, I mean, I think will slowly settle in and migrate back.
If I'm a buyer in Manhattan who wants to buy a piece of property in the Bay Area, for that figure of 10 million and above. Why are they doing that? What's their motivation primarily?
Well, I think again, it goes back to, if you're buying a place in San Francisco, the Bay Area for $10 million, you've probably got a $10 million plus place in New York. And
Right.
so, it's a lot of controlling your own environment and controlling your own destiny. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sell their place in New York. They may want another place. And it's, certainly what we're seeing in terms of, people again migrating across the United States is this idea that there are New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, these are always going to be hubs of commerce. And so, they're always going to be relevant in terms of housing.
Let's talk about the global buyer right now. And I'm thinking primarily Pacific Rim, China. I guess that's a little bit of South America coming up through Miami as well. What are they coming back? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Yes, I think, what you're seeing is, I think what you're seeing, and this can apply actually domestically as well as internationally, is this idea that real estate doesn't necessarily have borders anymore. Because we've got international travelers that are they're looking to move money out of a less economically friendly country. And so you've got people that are buying for that reason. You've got people that are investing again because their children are in schools, internationally. And so they're, that market is re-engaging. I think also, more so now than ever, you've got, whether it's advantages because of the currency, or we're still coming out of a period of time where borders were closed, and so nobody wanted to have their movements controlled. And so people are leaving the US or getting another passport, getting a golden passport, doing things like that so that they can have the flexibility to travel wherever they want to. And so I think I know that the international buyers were up in 2022 over 2021, up almost 30% in 2022 over 2019. And so, it's definitely coming back, and I think that will continue. There's, the United States is economically friendly, and for a lot of reasons, it's where people want to be.
Those buyers who are coming back, and even the buyers who are buying nationally within the US borders, where are the primary areas of interest? Do they want to go to Manhattan? Do they want to go to Idaho? Do they want to go where is the action?
Yeah, so Miami is, I think Miami is hands down the shining star with regard to international acquisition and people coming in. They've done a fabulous job of kind of positioning themselves as this very vibrant melting pot of cultures and technology and innovation. And of course, it doesn't hurt either to have the state of Florida and then the lack of income tax. But I think that is a market that is strong and thriving. I think, the destinations, the ski areas, the places, whether it's, warm weather or mountain weather. I think, now that people have the flexibility that they don't have to be confined to an urban environment, that's also applying to national and international travelers.
Be specific. What resort areas? Aspen?
Aspen, of course, is always a superstar. Aspen, Vail, Telluride, in the Mountain West. Jackson Hole is, of course, kind of catching up. We're a market that has always trailed Aspen, by probably 5 years, and I think we're closer to parity than we've ever been there. And so you look at those markets. You look at
what about the West Coast?
West Coast, I think, is, of course, Palo Alto, I think, is relevant and an important marketplace. I think, any of the, more of like the Big Sur, Carmel, lifestyle environments. That's, again, it goes back to, the affluent really want to be able to enjoy where they are, and they've discovered that they can work from anywhere and telecommute.
I understand this is anecdotal information right now, but let's talk about it. Again, what are we now? We're halfway into the year 23. What price points are we tending to see that are moving? And what type of properties are they? They could be second, third, or fourth properties. We accept that. They're multi-owners. Are they single family? Are they multi-family? Are they pied-à-terres? Where is the action?
Yeah, so I think what it boils down to, I mean, again, uncertainty is the enemy of all deals, right? And so there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the marketplace. And so what buyers are looking for is something that gives them that certainty, that peace of mind. And so, you know, how they go about doing that is they're looking for something unique and special, you know, so it's
one second. You said there's uncertainty in the marketplace. Define that for me quickly.
Oh, you know, interest rates, what is happening with interest rates? You've got, you know, we are, you know, the election in 2024. I mean, there's a lot of factors that are just out there that
Societal.
again, exactly. And people wake up and they kind of, if people wake up and everything that is kind of happening, especially amongst the affluent, is totally discretionary. And so they can decide not to do it. And you know, their lives are not impacted one way or another. So you have to give them that sense of urgency in terms of, okay, well, what are we looking at here? This is the most iconic, you know, I mean, we had Stephen Shane and Liz Leeds in Aspen sell the most expensive property in Aspen to ever transact downtown at $65 million. That just closed a couple of weeks ago. And so, you know, you look at that and you know, that's a discretionary spend, but it was also, you know, a piece of property you're never going to see again. And so at the high end, you have a lot of that. I think you've got, you know, you've got people that are waiting on the sidelines, and you know, a perfect example of that is you look at what happened with SVB and First Republic and kind of the run on the banks. Consider how much liquidity is out there when people can withdraw that kind of capital from these banking institutions. And so people are kind of sitting there with all of this money and, you know, kind of wondering what they're going to do. Of course, real estate is the perfect hedge against inflation. And I think, you know, we'll see a lot of activity this summer, kind of starting again in maybe that even, you know, $3 to $5 million range, you know, maybe people that a year or two ago would have bought a $10 million house. I mean, maybe they're going to buy something a little bit lower. I mean, it's just a matter of, you know, what the capital markets are going to be doing and you know, and how much certainty we can kind of glean from heading into the summer season.
Julie, the buyer class that your members are dealing with, I assume, are not concerned about 6% interest rates or 7% mortgage interest rates. They're more concerned with what's happening to their portfolios. And they're primarily cash buyers, are they not?
They are, however, you know, the interesting thing is that there's always some kind of leverage. You know, I mean, it's why the wealthy get wealthier, right? So before you'd have a cash transaction, and then on the back end, they would go in and borrow against their margin account and you know, do that at 2%. And you know, I mean, and their money would make money, you know, on that money. And so you're not seeing that as much. And I think, you know, a lot of that is more than anything, the interest rates and kind of what the Fed is doing, that affects the Henrys, you know, the high earners, not rich yet, the ones that really were reliant. They could get a really, really big loan, but they were reliant on that loan in order to get kind of into that trophy property range, into that $7 to $10 to $15 million range.
Go back to my initial question then, for the buyers, anecdotally again, what types of properties are they investing in?
So I think, you know, anything that has we've got people that are, I think, more than ever looking for something that can offer some flexibility and a return on their investment. So whether that is multifamily, I think you're seeing a lot more of that. And again, it's a great hedge against inflation, and also, you know, kind of the lifestyle properties, the compounds. I think that's the other piece of it where, you know, people are looking at having multiple residences because they're traveling and they're doing things differently. I mean, we have clients that are traveling with teachers and chefs and, you know, trainers and all of those things now because they're living differently. I mean, the psychology of the high net worth individual has done a 180-degree turn. And so they need to be able to educate their children at home. They need to be able to have, you know, the husband and the wife both have offices. They need to be able to have, you know, kind of entertain in a different manner and to be able to do so all in this kind of self-contained bubble. I think that is something, you know, as we looked at what the trend was heading into 2020, it was exactly the opposite. People were looking for smaller houses. Tiny homes were a massive trend. And now it's gone, you know, completely the other way, and people are looking for things that are bigger, larger acreage. They want elbow room. And I think the other piece of that too, Alf, is that they want more. Like I said before, they will control their own destiny, and so they're going to own, a pied à terre in the city. They're going to own something in, the Hamptons for in the summertime. They're going to own something in, in Florida. They're going to own something in the Mountain West. Those are all things that that are, certainly we're seeing.
I want to give you a case study, if I may. On Monday, we're going to be releasing a $35 million property. One of your members actually will be promoting a $35 million property on Tahoe, 4.5 acres.
Stunning.
It's got everything. It's the sort of property that you never see. It's 660 feet of shoreline. Who's going to buy that?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think it's, I think it's probably something like that is a, that property's never been on the market. It is so special and so unique.
60 years.
Yeah. And so it will be somebody that understands that provenance. And, in terms of demographic, it could be one of our, kind of the millennials, because they're really kind of coming into their own, and we're seeing them engage in the marketplace in a
totally, at 35 million.
Absolutely. Alf, there are kids. I'll say, like, sure, I'll show you that property, but I need a note from your mother. It's so different than anything that we've experienced before. And so, and they have made a lot of money. They've got kind of this stewardship mentality. It looks very different than what we kind of had predicted.
What do you mean? What do you mean the stewardship mentality?
Well, they aren't necessarily as into the new and shiny, right? So they are like, I want something that has some history. I want something that really means something, and that they can then kind of be stewards of, and what that looks like. And I think it's a very interesting thing, because it's kind of like what's old is new again. Because that wasn't necessarily what they were. They were the renter. They were kind of the renting generation, and now they have changed that, and now they've got a lot of money, and they want to kind of control their own destiny, and they want to do that in a way that is very unique to them. And I think this is a perfect example of where that buyer could come from.
So can that buyer come from the West Coast, come from the Bay Area, come from Manhattan, come from Chicago, or come from Beijing?
Yes, yeah. I think more so than anything, I think with that, I don't think it's a Midwestern buyer. I could be wrong, but it's just that the Midwest is a little bit more sensible, and we're not. I think that they will wait for a moment, but I think it's I think it's probably somebody out of Silicon Valley or in the tech business. Did I lose you, Alf? Are you there? Oh, you're frozen.
We can still hear you.
Okay,
I think
that's
it's just
good.
Alf.
Thank you, Stacy.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know he might just be frozen. I can't tell if anybody else is moving because nobody else has theirs. Oh yeah. Sia just said, keep talking, Julie.
Oh, that's so good. Well, yeah,
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? We can keep going if yeah. Or I can talk more. Let's see what else. Oh, well, now I'm the host. So yeah, I guess if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to unmute and or chat it in the chat box for sure. But I'm interested to kind of hear a little bit about also what you're seeing in your markets, and kind of the demographics that you might have questions about as we talk about what is moving the needle for as we head into the summer season. Are you seeing I think we'll see more inventory this summer than we have in years past, because how does somebody apply for membership? Thank you, Terry. So membership in Realm is, you can actually go to the website and fill out the inquiry form there. So that is realm-global.com if you're interested in applying for membership. As I mentioned, it is, we heavily vet our members, and we really are looking to, we intend to grow the community, but we're going to do it in a manner that is very, very deliberate and really kind of takes advantage of the incredible culture that we've created so far. We did just have a global event in Miami, and we're planning another one for the West Coast in May of next year. We'll have a couple more events this summer/fall, one in San Diego, and then another one on the East Coast. And so, a lot of things happening there. Is membership, thanks, Stacy. So is membership for realtors only, or adjunct disciplines welcome? This is a great question, actually, Stacy. And we have talked about, we have 15 patents on Realm, so we can actually expand to other verticals, luxury verticals. And so it will be in time for interior design and for other people like that. Now, I think there's Alf is back, so I will I'll turn it back over to him. Hi, Alf. Oh, maybe not. So, how do you use the membership to find off-market properties for buyers in the 10 million plus? So, Sia, thank you, and Sia is another wonderful member. So with Realm, what we're doing is we're taking the profiles of the 5 million wealthiest people in the world, and we are building predictive intelligence on what the buyer likely looks like based on their lifestyle affinities. And so we're able to do that by anonymizing all of the data, compiling it all up, and then matching that with the lifestyle attributes of the home. And so it gives you everything from, kind of the general demographics to the brokers that represent those demographics. And so you can actually reach out directly through their trusted advisor to introduce that property. The other piece is that because Realm is not a real estate company, we don't necessarily have the same kind of regulations that a brokerage would. And so we're able to, have inventory in there that is not available to the general public. So the Four Seasons Tropicalia in the Dominican Republic, which is, that hasn't even been announced yet. However, the developers have loaded that property into Realm so that our members can offer, special pricing to our clients and our customers through that membership, and it adds value and a lot of prestige, obviously. So we've got properties like that, what continues to be the best way to get into the luxury market, the ultra luxury market? Yes, mail-in. So I think that that's such a funny question because we get asked that all the time. And I think that it's as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, luxury is, and I think excellence in being a top producing broker is really, it's an ethos and a mindset more so than it is kind of breaking into a certain price category. When I started my career in real estate, it was we started our real estate brokerage on April 1st of 2009. And so it was a terrible time. There were short sales and foreclosures and all of those things. And we had clients that said, I want to buy everything. I want to buy every distressed property in Jackson Hole. And what I ended up having to do was, they have a beautiful home that's probably a 30 or $40 million house in Jackson, but I ended up, buying for them all of the distressed inventory. So, it's kind of like how you behave and how you carry yourself. You never want to give those clients away or say, this isn't luxury enough for me. Alf, are you back with us? Oh, Alf, can you hear us? Maybe not. Not yet. So yeah, so
he doesn't know he needs to unmute.
Oh, Alf, unmute. Yep. Thank you, Stacy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you are. Perfect.
Sorry about that. We lost total etiquette. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. There, you just came back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Finish the statement you were on, then I'll come back to my question.
So I think I was finished. We were just talking about breaking into the luxury market and you know how you do that as a you know, kind of as an up and coming broker. And I think that that's, you know, it's more of kind of dressing for the job that you want, not necessarily the one that you have today. And you know, the only other thing I could say is be a joiner and get involved in your community, you know, give back and you know, when you're starting out and you're not necessarily as established, that happens to be a lot of time that you're putting in. And then, but you're getting in front of people, you know, whether it's philanthropically getting in front of the community foundation or a philanthropic board or, you know, just donating your time, you end up meeting the most interesting people and those dots end up connecting because I think one of the things that is important and is a value that I know a lot of us on this call share is that, you know, we're looking to our communities to make us successful. You know, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. And so in order to do that, we need to take a vested interest and to make our community successful. And so we've got to be good stewards in order for people to care enough and be stewards of our business.
Julie, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Go back to the seller. That $10 million property again. How do I get? Let's go back to Realm. If I'm a member of the Realm network, how do I get that property out to the right audience? You said you've got a client base of at least 300,000. What's the process?
So it's all automated. So that's the beautiful thing is what we've been able to do through technology is figure out a way that we can keep the client information proprietary to the individual agent, but we still activate the databases and the spheres of influence of all of the members by uploading the property into Realm. Realm automatically creates lifestyle tags based on what it's reading about the property. So it, you know, if it's an oceanfront property that has tennis courts, it's contemporary in style, it's got a wine cellar and a 6-car garage, all of that goes in and gets tagged by Realm. And then the same thing has happened with all of the clients that the members have uploaded. And so what we care about is really that unique lifestyle profile of the client. We don't care about the contact information because we know that we'll be able to reach out and connect with that trusted advisor who will then make the introduction of the property to their client. So, you know, I mean, it kind of goes back to the whole idea that, you know, that you're going to cold call a wealthy person and say, hey, Alf, you don't know me, but I'm Julie Faupel and I got a property for you. And I think, you know, if anybody has done that, we all learned that they don't call you back. You know, that's not a way to transact high value real estate. You need to have something that is kind of like that trusted advisor relationship where, you know, Sia says, you know what, this is something that you've absolutely got to take a look at. I got it from my colleague, Julie Faupel in Jackson Hole. And I know you love mountain properties and, you know, that's the way that you kind of get the attention of the affluent because you've earned that as their trusted advisor.
So let's go through the actual step process though. I call my agent, my Realm agent in San Francisco. I've got a $13 million property on Pacific Heights, and I call you or I call somebody at Realm. I say, all right, I've got to sell this piece of property in 30 days. What are the literal steps?
So yeah, so that would be where, I mean, one, it gets fed into Realm automatically. So you're using the technology there. And so then you're alerted as the listing agent, you're alerted to the members that have matches in their database of people that have the lifestyle affinity. So then you're reaching out to those brokers directly and saying, hey, I see here that you've got a client that matches the Pacific Heights listing that I just put on the market. Let's talk about this. Is there a deal to be done here? Is this somebody that is, you know, that is actively engaged in looking in the Pacific Heights area or in the Bay Area? And, you know, and so you do it just exactly like you're kind of filtering through all of the nonsense or you're engaging in a dialogue rather than the monologue that we've been forced to kind of work with, you know, over the years where you're just putting it out there and hoping that somebody is compelled to call based on, you know, an ad in the Wall Street Journal or or in the Robb Report. And so, you know, it's a great way because then what you're doing is you're activating not only the sphere of influence of that agent, they're introducing it to their client. And oftentimes if one person has a lifestyle affinity for that property, they hang out with other people that also have those same lifestyle affinities. And so they might say, you know what, I'm not in the market for a house in Pacific Heights with a 6-car garage, but I'm going to send it to my buddy who's also a Porsche collector. And, and let's, I mean, it cuts through and makes it a lot more specific in terms of how you're marketing and kind of informing your overall marketing plan.
What about the reverse situation? Potential buyer comes in and says, I want a property that looks like this. How does that work?
So you do the exact same thing. So, and the beauty of Realm is because we're not just, so you put your client database right in Realm, and then we go out to all of the third-party data sources that we subscribe to. So we're the largest data consolidator in the real estate industry. And so we have information from social media activity, credit card spending, any of the publicly available data that we can scrape from the internet. And we're building this super robust lifestyle profile on your client. And so you get that returned to you. And then it's also, simultaneously, matching with these properties. And so you get an alert on the other side that says, hey, Julie Faupel, you've got a client that wants to buy something in Palo Alto. There's this incredible contemporary property that just came on the market and it aligns with your client. Why don't you send it to them?
You may not have this data, but I want to ask the question anyway. Days on market. What is the average DOM for a high-end property, the type that we're talking about now?
Oh gosh, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, it was, we went from really, not having anything available and having those properties snatched up, kind of post pandemic and through the frenzy of 2021 and the beginning of 2022. But it's more, I think anecdotally, I think what we're seeing is that those properties, you've got two classes of people, sellers. You've got the sellers that really wish they would have sold a year ago, and they're still pricing like it was a year ago, and we've got a little bit of an adjustment happening. And so those properties are going to sit. They're going to sit for a while because the marketplace is rejecting their listing price, and the seller needs to kind of be educated. And hopefully, all of our colleagues on this call understand, that that's a very, very important piece of getting transactions kind of revved up again, because it's these unrealistic listing prices that doesn't do anybody any favors. And then you've got the other piece where it's like, okay, they're a realistic seller and it's a great property, and those those will go with competing offers. Those will go in the first 30 days.
I want to talk about sort of predictive sales. We talked actually a couple of years ago, and within the confines of WealthX, for that matter, around the notion that so the traditional model of get the listing, promote the listing, wait, like Velcro, wait for the buyer to come in, is going to go away, particularly at the higher end. The more expensive the property, the less so the relevance. Do you see that? Do you see that predictive model take hold at the high end, where you'll be able to go in and identify well in advance who that buyer is going to be, and then do the math?
I think so. I mean, I think that's a lot of what, especially with the artificial intelligence that, that now debuted in November of last year. I think that this is, the speed and pace of information and data that we have access to, and kind of the rate of change and innovation that is happening in the marketplace is remarkable. And so, this is what we built with Realm was kind of the beginnings of that, where we're building the lifestyle profile so that we can actually have a very informed marketing campaign around the demographic that we're looking for. And I think we'll be able to get even more specific and succinct about, okay, not only is this the demographic that we're looking for, but here's the psychographic that we're looking for. Here's, I mean, we're now getting information through Identified that is, the liquidity events that people are experiencing. So we know kind of if somebody has had a life event that, enables them to make a purchase, or they might feel more motivated to make a purchase. I mean, all of the information that is kind of now at our fingertips is really enabling us to be far more educated and far more efficient about how we're transacting. And I think that will continue. But it still all boils down to, at the end of the day, it's especially at the high end, the trusted advisor and that human relationship is a key component to converting sales. I don't think we will ever see where it will be a massive trend to have, somebody buying a 10 or a 20 or a $50 million property all online. I think that's, you still need the expertise of the community builder to really kind of bring those transactions home. You might have frozen again.
Julia, I lost you there for a little bit, but I heard you still talking. So I have an internet connection that's unstable at my end, not at your end, I think. Okay. Final question. We'll wrap this up. And by the way, the recording is still capturing all of this. So I apologize to our viewers. You'll be able to get what we lost on the recording that I'll send out this afternoon. Give a closing piece of advice, if you would, to people who are watching this right now. They want to get into higher end sales. They have higher end sales. How on earth? What's the secret to success? What's the secret sauce?
I think it's all about collaboration. If you want higher end sales and you want to kind of get into that market, it's all about working with people that are operating at that level and learning from each other. I think that there are a lot of people out there that are like me, where, it's funny because, I ended up developing a technology solution, but I wouldn't say that I'm somebody that is especially savvy at social media or tech or anything like that. And if you're looking at some of the people that are the scions of the industry, is there a way for you to, partner with them, bring some value and really learn and cultivate? My husband and I are part of a succession plan. And I think that's, as we all kind of look at the business model and at how things are changing and how technology is being disruptive, it's a perfect opportunity to kind of embrace that and to work with somebody else so that you're building an annuity as kind of a more senior broker. You're building an annuity for yourself. And certainly, that's what Matt and I did with our business partners, Bob and Karen, and that transition was amazing. And we have a business partner, Max, that is kind of that same thing. So I think the business looks different. And I think, overall it is that kind of collaboration, but then also, what we're seeing is that people are doing co-listings from other markets. And so, take the rules away. We've got a Compass agent in Austin, Texas, co-listing with a Sotheby's agent in Toronto, and they've got a $250 million development in Puerto Vallarta. But it's their spheres of influence and their ability to collaborate that is really the most enticing thing to that seller, and it's brought a tremendous amount of opportunity for them. And so don't be afraid to look at the business differently. And then, as far as, looks like there was just a question that chatted in from Stacy. Right. Yes, what can I do as a designer to be of the most value to the Realm community? I think, Stacy, a lot of times we're getting these listings that are amazing, but virtual staging is more relevant than ever, and kind of being able to paint the picture of maybe what a property could be. I think, a lot of times there are those white elephant properties where you kind of go through and you think, oh my gosh. So, I could use Jackson Hole, Wyoming as an example where, you kind of tour and you think, well, gosh, how long did the Lone Ranger live here? It's just really, and that taste isn't necessarily the style of the market. And so we need somebody with an interior design aesthetic that can help us to envision and create that vision for the next buyer of what it could be and how we can make it a little bit more current.
Julie, I want to thank you very much. It's been a great conversation, a great discussion. I've been following Realm for a long time, and it was fascinating to me to hear what you had to say there. And I hope the rest of our viewers feel the same way. Apologize for our technical problems. When we send out the link this afternoon, Julie, to the Zoom recording, may we put your email address in there?
Absolutely.
Because there may be some people who want to talk to you offline, and let them contact you accordingly. Yes.
Of course, yeah, that's absolutely. I'm a good real estate broker, so I answer my phone. So we're always happy to hear from somebody. But I'll thank you, and you have been so incredible, just as a colleague and as a friend, and it's always a pleasure to have a chat with you. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. We really appreciate you. And again, to all of our viewers this afternoon, the Zoom recording link will be sent out. Be on the lookout for it. It's 11 o'clock. We're adjourned for the day. We want you to go make some money, sell some real estate. And with that, we are adjourned. And Julie, thank you very much for everything and for dealing with that tech problem.
All right. Take care. Thanks all.
All righty.